Hey everyone, welcome to episode 1 of Jack's Unholy Racket. I'm Jack and I'm going to be your host. This is going to be a series of videos mostly for my own amusement. I'm just going to run through my collection and kind of give a review or an introduction to the albums. Just kind of entertaining for me to see what I have at this point. I have about 900 CDs. I've stopped buying CDs for the most point and I've switched over to vinyl, so my vinyl collection is pretty small, so I'm going to start with that. The albums I picked today are just some of the most recent stuff that I have, and these days I'm only buying stuff that is absolute favorites for me, so I'll listen to them on Spotify, 4, 5, 6, 7 times before I decide that it belongs in the collection. So I'm really excited to make these videos. I want to get better at doing this, and I think the only way to do that is through practice, so I can't be afraid of failing, and I can't be I just have to do it. That's all there is to it, So let's get started. The first one, Sepulchral Curse. This album is unbelievable. You can see how gorgeous the art is. The packaging is unreal. This is from a label called Transcending Obscurity. They're out of India, of all places. They have some amazing bands. The quality of this is just unreal. I bought a bunch of albums since I got my turntable, and this one absolutely takes the cake as far as the most beautiful packaging and just the thought and care that went into the album itself. The physical aspect of having this album is just amazing, because when you listen to it and you have this in your hands, you can just appreciate the art. The insert has the lyrics on it. The last song is in Finnish. The band is from Finland. And it's just kind of an amazing experience, all told. The vinyl itself is absolutely gorgeous. One of the better looking records I have. It's this kind of blue-green splash swirl kind of thing. The music, I heard this album on Spotify for the first time. I was just listening to everything that Transcending Obscurity puts out, and I heard this late at night on Spotify, and the mixture of hardcore punk elements with death metal was just unbelievable, amazing to me how good this band is. And of course I looked into them, and they're basically a super group. I even have some records from the other bands that these guys are in, and I didn't know that, but I probably should have. With the talent and the songwriting, it's so mature and professional. For a debut album, I obviously should have known these guys have been doing amazing stuff with other bands. But if you are into interesting death metal, it's not old school, it's not, run-of-the-mill stuff, it doesn't remind you of anything specifically, you need to hear this album, period. If you're into heavy music, it blew my mind the way that they were able to blend styles so professionally, I guess is the word for it. A lot of bands blend styles and it just sounds like a mishmash, and the songwriting is always in question. But this album, my God, Sepulchral Curse out of Finland, easy enough to say. Only Ashes Remain on Transcending Obscurity. Wow. This one is just unbelievable. I was so happy. I pre-ordered that album after I listened to it a bunch on Spotify, and it came sooner than I expected, and yeah, unbelievable first press. Next up is a band I think is from Ohio. I know they're from the Midwest. This is Obscene, The Inhabitable Dark. This is another album that does a really good job of blending two styles, and this blends early metalcore, I would say around the year 2000, 1999. Think like Slayer meeting something like Converge and kind of like a chaotic sound. With old school death metal, just kind of like basement sound, deep, dark, guttural stuff. And that combination of kind of like the shrieking pain, the like agony and rage of that early metalcore stuff that was kind of blending in the early emo stuff where it was cool to just be completely shrieking your lungs out, mixed with kind of that old school mid-tempo death metal. I had never heard anything like this before, and I remember thinking that when it came on Spotify. The combination of the vocals and the style of the music was just amazing. It's a pretty short album. It's only 8 songs. None of them are very long, but they all feel very unique within themselves. Some of them are a little more hardcore punk, and some of them are a little more death metal. And what really ties it together is the vocals on this. I mean, they are unique in the sense that you wouldn't associate them with modern day death metal, but the fact that they are blending these early metalcore stylings into the death metal sounds The blend is just kind of this wash of awesomeness and very, very intense. This is on Blood Harvest Records out of Sweden, and I just can't imagine how amazing it would be to be a Midwest, death metal kind of fusion band signed on, or at least released by this amazing Swedish label. I think this is just regular old black vinyl, not that that is a problem or anything, but the album is just unreal. And when you see, that this is just a group of like random ass guys from the Midwest, obviously they look like super evil in this picture, but they probably work at grocery stores and stuff. It just, absolutely blew me away. Recorded in Illinois, and it sounds like it was recorded, in hell, basically. So yeah, Obscene, The Inhabitable Dark. If you're into metalcore and you are completely bored with it, I would start with this album, because if it came out in the year 2000 or 2001, it would have been the absolute album of the year for anyone into early metalcore. Unbelievable album. Not as impressive, packaging or anything like that, as far as the Transcending Obscurity stuff, but my first LP from Blood Harvest out of Sweden, and they have so many good albums, so I'm really excited to have that. I got that from Nuclear War Now out of California. They have a great distribution, and it was relatively cheap for something out of Sweden. Next up is Necrophiliac, No Living Man is Innocent. This album has the best story of the 5 that I'm doing today. This is the band's first album in 27 years. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense how good this is. If you look at the guys, I mean, this is like they're like not like my dad's age, but they're dads. They're probably in their 40s or even 50s. And the quality of the songwriting on this album is absolute top notch. The production is a little flat. And to be honest, it feels kind of like they just were able to throw it together. But the songs themselves are so good, it absolutely does not matter. I have not gone back and listened to this band's stuff from 27 years ago, and I honestly don't know if I will. That's how much I love this album. I just want it to be kind of this weird dad band from Spain that just put out this unreal album. If I had to describe the style, I would call it old school death metal, but none of the songs stay in any particular lane. There's parts that remind me of, mid catalog death songs. There's songs that remind me of kind of like almost like Slayer, if they wrote better music. And the way the songs flow within themselves and to one another is unbelievable. It almost feels like a concept album. And the vocalist, it gets a credit in the liner notes for the concept of the album. And from what I can see and hear and read, it's basically an album about how horrible mankind is. No living man is innocent. Definitely a timely album right now. But what's awesome about this album is it goes from like folklore, like evil characters in folklore, all the way to Ted Bundy, like an American icon in murder and evil. And the concept works. There's like samples and interludes, and it's just this huge, massive album. It's like almost an hour long. But it's unreal. I mean, usually this would be something that I would have no interest in. An hour of just kind of random old school death metal stylings from a group of guys who hadn't released an album in 27 years. But what this really feels like is they've been working on it for 27 years. I mean, it's just unbelievable, the level of production and the professionalism of it. It's so tight. And if the actual production was better, the mixing, if it felt bigger, I think this would be my favorite album of the year. I mean, not just with the story, the art, the concept, the lyrics, everything. But the production's a little flat. It does definitely hold it back. But if you're curious about death metal in general, and you're like new to it, I would start with this album because there's so much on it, and nothing overstays its welcome. Nothing is overly like pounding or, just like overly aggressive, really. That's the best word for it. It's dark and it's moody and it's interesting, and for an hour-long album from a group of guys who hadn't made an album in 27 years, the way this album held my interest and keeps me coming back is just amazing. And talk about bang for your buck, almost an hour of good music, and I think it was like $17. I had to pay, shipping from Spain, of course, but that's on Xtreem Music out of Spain. I did a huge order from them. They won't stop putting out good music, and it's really frustrating because the shipping is expensive, but wow. Props to them. That's just one of my favorite albums that I had to get from them. Next up is a very weird album that I'm very happy to have, the Departure Chandelier. This is the Black Crest of Death, the Gold Wreath of War. Very typical kind of... I would honestly call this new school black metal because it's like easy listening. It's not overly dark. It's not overly cacophonic. It's very, very melodic. And there's lots of elements to the actual songwriting where you can tell it was designed to be listened to. It's not something that you just kind of put on in the background and feel the darkness. They really are kind of compositions and, nice songs. And what impressed me about this band in particular is it's a collaboration. I think one person or multiple people are from New York and one person is from Canada. And it definitely feels a lot tighter than that. It feels a lot more emotional than that. And when I put this album on, I have their other full length as well. It's just like I said, it's just pure easy listening because the musicianship is really good. The melody is there, and it just goes by in a flash, and you're just like, wow, that was a great album. It absolutely doesn't blow me away because I don't think that's the purpose of it. I think, like I said, it's more of like almost like a concept album. They refer to themselves as Napoleonic war metal, and of course I have to laugh because what is that even? But their style is a little bit unique in the sense that the melodic elements of it, how easy it is to kind of like flow through their songs, considering it is still kind of like black metal and a little bit abrasive. This is just something that kind of impressed me as far as, something that I would want to come back to and listen to over and over again. Nothing too special about the packaging. This is a Nuclear War Now release. I think it was a demo that they just decided to, package up for people that were interested in the band. It has some cool inserts, and, the aesthetic of the band is very, very, interesting at least. But yeah, great album. I'm so happy I have this because I have a feeling this is just going to become more and more popular because of how accessible it is. Genuine, easy listening black metal. And I saved the best for last. I almost made a separate video for this because I was so excited about this album. I never recommend what I would call modern rock, and really you could get into all kinds of detail about what genre this band is, but I would call them modern rock. And this is the first time I've been able to recommend a band in that genre in a long, long time. And this is Loviatar. This album is called Lightless. And they would probably, genre-wise be classified as doom, maybe doom metal, but probably closer to doom rock. I had this album on the other day, and my wife asked if it was Ozzy singing, and there are definitely some, Sabbath influences as far as the tone, and there's a lot of mid-paced, doomy stuff. That's the best word for it. That's why we're still using it at this point for genres. But what this really is a modern rock album. It is a collection of guitar-driven, melodic, powerful songs that all work together beautifully. I haven't heard an album from the rock genre that flowed so well in a long, long time. And that's why I've mostly been listening to metal music, because rock has seemed just a collection of songs that really have no connection to one another, even stylistically. So I've been very frustrated with rock, but let me tell you about this album. It is a concept album about the fact that human beings are going to die. So we're the only creatures that know we are alive, and we're the only creatures that know we are going to die. And you would think it would be a very dark and depressing album, but it's quite the opposite. It is a bright, vibrant, radiant, like celebration almost of being alive and having these experiences, specifically the dark experiences, the beauty of going through these dark experiences and through these tunnels and caverns, and there's all these references in the lyrics to going deeper and paths and where they lead, and the lyrics themselves are about dying, but the experience of listening to the album, wow, it really makes you feel alive. This is the most accessible album in my collection, which is why I'm the most excited about it, because random people may see this video many, many years from now when I have, 45 views instead of none, and hopefully they'll be turned on to this album and they will like it, because it is accessible, it is modern rock that you don't hear these days. The vinyl itself is absolutely gorgeous. This is my second or third album from Prosthetic Records out of Los Angeles. They have had the best year I've seen of any label this year. They put out like 15 albums, and almost all of them have just been stunning. But if you can see, this is like this galaxy black, and when it's spinning, it really looks like stars. And the experience of listening to this album, because it is a rock album instead of a metal album, the experience is a lot different. You can sit down and put this album on and, wash the dishes. You can put this album on and work out. And if anybody out there is looking for new music and you have any interest in rock music at all, Loviatar, Lightless, check it out. It is a seether of an album. It is basically just, this explosion of light and energy on the subject of death. So it probably gets in the metal category for the subject matter and kind of the gloominess and the doominess of the music. But it is a rock experience, and I think it is the one album I'd recommend to people who aren't into metal, which is going to be most of what I review. So I'm going to stick with 5 albums an episode. Eventually we'll get through my LPs and we'll switch to CDs. This is mostly just for me, like I said, to have fun, but if you check this out at some point, let me know in a comment, and I appreciate it. So have a great day, you guys.